This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Good morning and welcome to Loose on the Lead. Seth Merrill from Equidaily.com, Steve Bick from Sirius and XM's At the Races, live from the Saratoga backstretch.
Each and every Sunday at this hour, we bring you mirth and merriment.
At the very least. People have, and I get a lot of feedback on the front side. People appreciate the
They
mirth
hate
and
us.
merriment.
They hate me. They love you. Big affable smile. Look at that. Look
People-
at that. Look at
people
that
do love
comic.
me.
Look at that. Huh? Boy,
You're killing me. You're killing
we're just
me.
getting going.
We should mention you had a horse run the other day, Pal of Pals.
We're lucky. We're lucky that he's not back at Central Park pulling a wagon. You know,
Off a long layoff.
off the long layoff, and all we wanted to do was kind of get a tightener. That's all we were looking for. Instead, he manages to take a funny step on where the gate, where the gate rolls over onto the grass, and it wrenches his knee a little bit, which puts him on the vet list. For those of you that don't understand what that means, now he's got to work out for the vets, for the NYRA vets, before he can be allowed to race. And so the idea was last year, we came back with him, Pal of Pals, and he ran. Didn't run great, but it was a tightener. Came back 7 days later and won. Well, we were working toward the same exact thing, and that's one of the travails. It's part of what the game is. So, got to go back down to Belmont and get you in early September.
A little insight into the owner's side of the game and some of the trials and tribulations as to how it works. All right, let's take a look out. Obviously, we're Saratoga-centric up here during this month, but there was a nice day of racing out at Arlington yesterday. We'll take a look at the big three stakes races from their card. First up, we'll take a look at the stretch run to the Secretariat. We're going to watch the number 6 Adelaide win. Number 9 Tourist will finish second. Jimmy Toner's Sheldon, number 5 horse.
Sheldon.
Sheldon ran a decent third in here. Secretariat, a grade 1 event, mile and a quarter for $500,000. And Adelaide, Aidan O'Brien runner, had run a very close-up second behind Mr. Speaker in the Belmont Derby last time out. That was back on July 5th. This is a horse now, 6 career starts, 3 wins, 3 second-place finishes, and went off as the even money favorite here.
Well, and 2 of the Euros are going to take half of the Arlington Million Quartet. And Adelaide, certainly was the one that I think people anticipated was the most likely winner of the Euros, even more so than Magician, the defending Breeders' Cup Turf winner from last year. But Tourist was obviously, for Bill Mott, was going to be the horse that needed to be watched. And you saw him down inside. He was the pace setter. There was no question he was going to be the pace setter, especially when the other Coolmore, Belisarius, ended up scratching, because it was assumed that Belisarius would keep Tourist company on the front end. Instead, Tourist basically gets his way as expected, and it looked like he was going to be completely overwhelmed there in the stretch. But in fact, when Adelaide kept getting out, there was maybe a moment there that Tourist could have persevered, and you would have thought maybe gets by and reestablishes. But instead, Adelaide, this nice son of Galileo, your Secretariat winner. The disappointment in here was General Jack, who was a bit of a wise guy horse and who promptly, attended the pace with Tourist, and it wasn't a torrid pace at all, 48 and change, 113, and then General Jack stops like a cheap watch and ends up last in here. So happy certainly for Jimmy Toner and the team at 99 North or 90 North Racing that we're seeing more and more of. So that was your Secretariat.
Yeah, and I didn't pull up the video, but I do want to mention the American Saint Ledger.
Oh, this is great.
Pizza Man,
It's unbelievable.
who is an incredible story out there in Illinois.
Unbelievable. And for those of you that don't follow this is a homebred for Midwest thoroughbreds. And Roger Brueggemann, who's a very quiet guy, not easy to get him out, into the limelight. Roger Brueggemann's done a great job in the Midwest for Midwest. This is an Illinois bred that just loves it on the Arlington grass, and he beats 4 very good euros, going 1.75 miles. Who says we can't breed a old classic stayer? This is a great win for them and for Florent Giroux, the French import, who's very quickly caught up and maybe passed Julien Leparoux of late as the top French jockey on this side of the Atlantic.
Yeah, the Pizza Man now 12 for 17 now.
It's unbelievable.
And I'm just looking, this is the 5th in a 5-race win streak now on this. A couple
And
to end the
what's
season.
he at Arlington?
Arlington now 8 for 11. 8 for 11. Yeah, it's incredible.
Unbelievable.
All right, let's take a look at another one of the stakes, the Bev D, that was run again on the nice card yesterday. Bev D is going to be won by another European. The number 2, Euro Charlene, goes off at 10-1. Stephanie's Kitten, the 5-2 favorite, will run second. Just the Judge runs third, another European. I boxed the 3 Euros and ran first and third in here. Somali Lemonade.
That trick never works.
Oh, it's occasionally. The number 11, Somali Lemonade, runs fifth. Disappointing. Emoliant Tannery, Alterite finished ninth.
Alterite was not disappointing. She was awful. She was embarrassingly bad. And I thought she was prepared to run a big race, in fact, and she stunk. In the meantime, Stephanie's Kitten ran another good race and had to basically try to pass them all and just can't get to Euro Charlene. And you see them gallop out together. But this is a Team Valor import under Marco Botti's name. It'll be interesting to see if Euro Charlene goes back to Euro or if she stays in the U.S. and is turned over to Rick Matee for Barry Irwin and company, a daughter of my boy Charlie, who is as obscure a sire as I mean, that's not a name I've seen, but that's certainly the Team Valor and the Barry Irwin forte, is finding obscurities and turning them into successful horses. You said Emoliant. It's just so evident at this point. I mean, Emoliant is a synthetic surface runner. That's what she loves. The grass is just not her thing. Somali Lemonade ran solidly again. Latia, talking about another Chicago land horse. I tried Just the Judge, who seemed like the wise guy filly, and she ran okay. But I didn't have Euro Charlene on top on any tickets. And that gets us to the best story
It dwarfs the Pizza Man story.
This is unbelievable.
We're going to watch the stretch run of the million here. Number 1, Hardest Core is going to win over Magician. Magician went off as the 9-5 favorite. Hardest Core, the second longest price on the board at 11-1, and that was short, I think. But
it seems so, right?
Yeah, number 1, Hardest Core. Number 3, Magician. Number 7, Side Glance. And this is an incredible story, starting out with the fact that they bought this horse at an auction and intended to make a steeplechase runner out of this horse. And so they wind up winning the Arlington Million. This is a crazy story.
Eddie Graham, and watch here, and I'm watching and I'm thinking, the one? Who's the one? And he goes by Magician, like Magician is tied to a post. This was unbelievable. And you got to be delighted for people like Eddie Graham and Aurelius Vaz, who couldn't ride in the winter at Aqueduct, had to go to Philadelphia. It's really great. And this is one of those things that makes, you got to figure, it makes people of all ilk in the game feel great. I thought this was just one of those smile-inducing moments where everybody was walking around, especially those from the Mid-Atlantic region that know Eddie Graham. I know Joe Clancy and Sean Clancy and any other number of Mid-Atlantic connections. They were sort of just bewildered by the fact. And the amazing thing is that Eddie Graham was cross-entered in the St. Ledger and ended up going for the million. Talk about rolling the dice and getting paid. It's amazing.
Yeah, it came out of a workout at Fair Hill that they thought was good enough to take the shot in the million. But prior to that this year, before winning the million, went to the $50,000 Cape Henlopen Open down in Delaware. Starts the season out in an optional claimer at Parks. Just amazing. And as noted, had been in the barn of Kieran McLaughlin, went to an auction, and they bought this horse with the intention of making it a jumper. I wonder if that's still in the cards. I wonder if this will be an Arlington Million winner going over the jumps at some point.
That'd be great.
Absolutely. All right, you want to touch on anything else?
What else is there to touch on? Maybe at Del Mar quickly, the grade 1 out there. Vicky Oliver, who was doing very well with limited starters. You know, all the focus was on Mike Stidham and on Mark Casse when it came to the ship and win concept at Del Mar. In the meantime, Vicky Oliver had gone out there with a small string. And she was, I think, she'd had 3 board hits, a win, a second, and a third. And then she wins the Del Mar Oaks with Personal Diary 9-1. And it's just a tremendous story for her dad, Watts Humphrey. It's amazing.
Sea Queen was the favorite, winds up 4th in here.
Amazing.
Mike Conquistadori for Mark Casse winds up 3rd in that race. So
She also won one of the editions of the Hatuf back in Chicago. You know, the split divisions of the Hatuf stake. Kiss Moon won the other one for David Vance, and Kiss Moon has been a nice 3-year-old filly all year. But just a pretty interesting set of results, certainly, and we'll obviously touch on the domestic performances, the Alabama, and a very clear win for Shopping Maria.
And it sets up what's going to be the race of the year
Oh,
for the
God.
Cotillion down at Don
unbelievable.
Park. Sweet Reason, Untappable, and Stop Charging Maria. That will define the division, and those are the kind of races we all hope for. All right, we'll head to our first break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Martin Panza from the New York Racing Association, Jim Gluckson from the Breeders' Cup coming up a little later on, Scott Hazelton from HRTV.
We do hope for those kinds of races. We just don't hope for them in Philadelphia. We hope for them. We hope for them in New York.
As a racing fan in general, you hope for those kind of races
Absolutely.
to happen, but they don't
Absolutely.
set up without a big race like the Alabama yesterday.
It's just the way the calendar falls and the way the certain, the roulette wheel, the fickle finger of
We got a big one
state
coming up
race.
here this coming Saturday. That's going to be
What's
a night
that?
with Bayern and now Mr. Speaker coming into it. Wicked
Tonalist,
Tonalist. Yeah,
Kid
so
Cruz.
we got our
That's
share.
the Travers, I
Yeah,
think.
we got our share up here. All right, we'll head to our first break, and when we come back, we will be joined by Martin Panza. Stay tuned.
Go Zephyr kicking clear, and Go Zephyr is pulling away impressively.
Hysterical Lady Ginger Punch to win it.
And it's Wilco in front, and he's going to pull off a huge upset here.
But it's Round Pond going on to take the distaff.
Awesome again. Sire of 10 Grade 1 winners, 4 Breeders' Cup champions, and 4 multimillionaires, standing at Adena Springs.
It's more than just a sports bar. It's Stadium Cafe. Located at 389 Broadway in Saratoga, it's the place to be for great times and great food. Their menu features everything from gourmet entrees to your favorite wraps and sandwiches. Or maybe you just want to grab a beer and catch the game. So what can be better than that? How about 2 Stadium Cafes? There's also the Westside Stadium, right up the road at 112 Congress Street. Same great menu, same great service. Whether you're hanging at the bar or just relaxing outside on their spacious covered patio, you'll always leave knowing you'll be back again.
We love, above all, the staff. We love Dave Harmon, and the food is fantastic.
Not 1, but 2. 112 Congress Street, 389 Broadway. Guaranteed to be a home run.
Sovereign Stable.
Partnerships.
Ownership.
Winning.
Sovereign Stable.
The anticipation.
The excitement.
The thrill.
Top level racing.
Sovereign Stable.
Join us in the morning on the backstretch of Saratoga Racecourse to experience the magic of thoroughbred ownership. Call 866-329-2WIN to meet trainers, jockeys, and watch sovereign horses on the track.
We're back on Loose on the Lead on this Sunday morning of Alabama weekend. Sword Dancer later today. And as we come back, we're delighted to welcome Martin Panza, the Vice President of Racing for the New York Racing Association. Thanks, Martin.
No, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
We appreciate everything that's been going on at the association in terms of the innovations that you've been effectively changing across the board, whether it is the big Belmont Day that incorporated Met Mile, whether it was the Stars and Stripes Festival, which was welcomed and was a big hit, and now, of course, a showcase day for the New York Reds next Sunday, a clever addition to the calendar at Saratoga, the big day concept, a big part of your background in the game.
Right. No, I firmly believe in the big days. I think, you know, my brothers taught me a valuable lesson because they're very casual racing fans and they come out once or twice a year, but they come on the big days. I mean, like when Zenyatta was running California, they'd read about her in the paper and they'd say, we want to come see this. So it just, to me, that's how we can get a casual fan out to the races. For the hardcore players, they're great days because it's good days of racing. And you get people to come out, you get crowds out, we put our best foot forward on those days, and then hope that slowly they say, you know what, the track's cool, let's go again on another day. So
talk a little bit about Belmont Oaks, Belmont Derby, the impetus for those two races, and I think you had to be thrilled with the way it turned out. Aidan O'Brien shows up, you had some nice European runners in both of those races.
Sure, we had done a race like that in California at Hollywood Park called the American Oaks, so I knew it would sort of work and that the timing was right in July. And more importantly, I wanted to try and help build up the Belmont Spring Summer meeting. At the same time, you don't want to affect Saratoga because, you know, this is an awesome place and I didn't want to do something that would harm the stake schedules up here. So those turf races down there for the 3-year-old colts, the Belmont Derby, the Belmont Oaks for the fillies, they really didn't affect what we do up at Saratoga. And the timing was right to get horses to come from Europe, and it just gives another day at Belmont Park, basically saying, hey, when the Belmont Stakes is over, Belmont Park is not done. We've got another big day, July 4th or July 5th. So I was happy with the first year of doing it.
And talk a little bit about bringing the Europeans over, because I think that adds some intrigue for racing fans as well.
It does. We're fortunate enough on that day to get 8 or 9 of them to come over, and if we have the same horses over and over and over again, it's hard to make a story out of and get it to be creative. So it's great when we can get horses from other countries to come in, lets us judge how good our horses are, and it just makes the racing more interesting. So, you know, good place to start there. We got horses from Europe. We're still going to keep working to try and get some Japanese runners to come for those races and maybe eventually something from New Zealand or Australia, but it makes for an international day. And, you know, New York City is one of the greatest cities in the world, and we need to use that. We need to use that to help racing at Belmont Park. People want to come there, and we can do it through sort of international races in July.
You know, talk about Japanese interest, and of course, when you established the American Oaks, Cesario's presence and race that will never be forgotten. Hollywood Park has faded away, but when I think of Hollywood, that may be the performance and the race I think of.
Yeah, I mean, that was a pretty cool day. Cesario was a really nice filly from Japan. She won the race really impressively. The Yoshidas were very supportive of the American Oaks, and I think it was like maybe the first Japanese Grade 1 winner in the United States or something at the time. So, you know, we'll try to get that to take place in New York, and I think the Yoshidas are receptive to bringing horses to New York, and it just adds more to the flair, makes it more interesting, and it makes it an event that you hope people will come out and watch.
In terms of this concept, there's been a couple of elements, in particular the recruiting and the addition of Frank Gabriel to the staff in the racing office. And for those that didn't understand what that meant, having a guy as experienced and as well known with international connections, it was a stroke of brilliance to bring a guy like that in that has got his hands and Rolodex on virtually every major racing interest around the globe.
Yeah, I'm really fortunate. We have 2 racing secretaries, Dan Edson, who does the Aqueduct meet, who'd been with me at Hollywood Park for years and sort of understands what we were trying to do. And then adding Frank Gabriel to do Belmont and Saratoga. Frank had been in Dubai for years, previously at Arlington Park, so understood through the Arlington Million the premise of big day events. And then Frank, just with his experience in the industry, both of the guys with their experience in the industry, you know, I don't have to worry about the racing office. They know what they're doing, they can fill the races, and it allows me to set up big days and recruit and take care of just planning for the future. So huge asset. You're only as good as the people you have working for you, and very fortunate. NYRA's made some really good hires in the racing end, and we've added depth, and that's important. It helps you in the long run.
Got to ask, as part of this concept, one of the things that certain observers not unfairly bring up, Martin, is the juxtaposition of purse allotment for these kinds of projects, and it's boosting of purses on stakes, the establishment and raising the level, changing the names of the Oaks and the Derby to basically create a new product. How do we offset, and at what point do we feel as a team and as racing fans that the investment in those purses and the increase in handle from those kinds of days has met, and there's equilibrium to that extent?
Right. Anytime we do anything with stakes or overnight purses, the purses for a normal race every day, we always try to keep a balance of 70% for the overnights and 30% for the stakes. And I think for this year, for New York, for the entire year, we're going to be about 28.5%. So there's a little bit more room to grow. Anytime we spend money on stakes races, we try to spend it to get the most money back for NYRA, the state of New York, and the horsemen. When we do things, say, in the fall, when you have these fall stakes, you're up against college football and pro football, and we don't handle as much money. So the thought process is, listen, let's boost up Saratoga. This place is powerful. I mean, every Saturday up here, you're doing 20 million, 25 million, 27 million on Whitney Day, 41 million on Travers Day.
24 yesterday, right?
Exactly. So let's boost up Saratoga. We know that people pay attention to Saratoga. People want to come here. And then let's boost up Belmont summer and spring, where we're up against baseball. And it's a little bit easier. We can still handle money in the summer. Obviously, Belmont Stakes Day, 153.4 million. So when we do spend stakes money, it's to try and earn as much money back into the purse account, which just allows us to keep growing more big days and to grow our normal overnight stakes. And at the same time, we need to make NYRA profitable, and that's what I'm here to try and help them do. And NYRA can monetize these big days, and it gets NYRA out of the red and into the black, which is what, if NYRA's healthy, it's good for everybody.
Let's go back. Steve Crisp wrote a nice appreciative article on some of the comments you made at the Jockey Club last week, and one of them that caught my eye is a horse player. There's been talk over the last few years, obviously, with the reducing foal crop, reducing dates, maybe reducing the number of races, but you made a great comment that the foundation for all of that is, let's start with field size. How do we maintain good field size? And as bettors, that's what we like to hear.
Right. It's hard to do, and I did make that comment. We in racing tend to look at, well, what did we do last year? So that's what we need to do this year. If we ran 11 races last year, then you better run 11 races this year. And I just tried to get people to think a little bit for a second. What if we just said, here's what we want the product to be? If we want it to be an average of 9 horses a race, then how many races can we offer in a week and maintain that? Easier said than done. And people have to remember, there are certain races that are always going to be 5 or 6 horse fields. You might run a filly and mare, 200 an allowance race, mile and 1/8 on the main track. It's going to be 5 or 6. If all the stars align, you get it to go with 5 or 6. It's never going to be a 9 or a 10. So you're going to have to run some races just to keep the program going that will have smaller fields. But as the full crop decreases, and we know it is, we certainly have to start looking at what we're doing. And especially in New York, we want to let people know, look, the brand of NYRA Racing, it stands for something, and it stands for top quality racing. And to keep running 12, 13, 14 races and start offering 5, 6 horse fields constantly, that's going to hurt the brand. People don't want to play that. I mean, look, I'm a fan of racing, and I want to see good racing too. I want to see full fields. There's weather to deal with back here, and that's a different issue. And you're running 6 days a week. I mean, it's the throttle's pretty much open here. But moving forward, over the next 3 to 5 years, we'll keep trying to grow in that direction of, maybe less races, but quality races and decent field size, and just, get the brand that, hey, this is the best racing in America.
Absolutely. And let me just go back to a couple other things. I've read comments you made over the past few months since you've taken over. There was some talk of maybe a turf triple crown. and kind of working on that concept. And also I want to throw in, what about getting back to a three-year-old filly Triple Crown?
The Turf Triple Crown, we were just sort of looking at, the Belmont Derby and maybe the Secretariat. Belmont Derby's a mile and a quarter, the Secretariat's a mile and a quarter. And then maybe there's room a month later for, say, a mile and a half race someplace. And that would sort of create a 3-race series, maybe a month apart. And, we call it the American Turf Triple Crown. So we have a little bit of work to do there, but I think it's a good concept. The fillies is a little bit more difficult. In fact, Mike Lakow was out here from Santa Anita, previously at New York, and we were talking about it a little bit. And certainly, you have to start with the Kentucky, Oaks, and at a mile and an eighth, and then we would need to figure out, okay, what's the next, step in that. Selfishly, we have a race called the Acorn on Belmont Stakes Day that is a $750,000 purse at 1 mile that got a pretty good field this year, and so there's a lot to look at on the 3-year-old filly side if we can make that work. But it's something we're looking at it. We're just not quite sure how it plays out.
It used to make sense. So you could Oaks, the Black Eyed Susan, and then the
Right.
Coaching Club American Oaks used to have the date there that would be, but with 21st century training, that's not necessarily. So it would have to be something that would be tweaked a little bit.
I like the idea of, I'm a big believer in long distance racing. I mean, I like seeing it, the maiden race is going a mile and 3/8 or a mile and a quarter, and the one other than's going a mile and a half. And, we have these stakes races, grade 1s, grade 2s at a mile and a half, but we didn't have any races to let people build up to them, to develop a horse to them. So, for me, maybe the Coaching Club American Oaks or one of these races goes back to the original mile and a half. And if it's a 5 or 6 horse field, that's okay. At least the race is offered. I've always found that if you offer things that nobody else offers, a lot of times they're successful because, hey, that's your one opportunity during the year. We added that Belmont Gold Cup the day before the Belmont, a 2-mile turf race. We were a little nervous, but we ended up getting, 10 or 12 horses in there, and it was a fun race to watch. So, sometimes when no one else is doing something, you do it and you can be successful.
Simultaneously, Martin, let's also fold in cooperation among racing jurisdictions and racing secretaries. And the racing secretary community meets annually. Noticeably, yesterday, Monmouth runs a 6-furlong Jersey Shore, which can only serve to take a horse or two out of the King's Bishop. How do the racing secretaries work better together so that there isn't this overlap? And this is a topic, of course, that has come up, time and again over the years when there's certain kinds of offerings that are within weeks of or each other or on the same day of each other. I mean, even including, the Del Mar Oaks being run, the same day we're running a 3-year-old turf race.
Sure, it's a difficult thing to do. The Del Mar Oaks and the Lake Placid, look, they're 3,000 miles away from us, and I could make an argument, that you really can't touch that. But certainly a race at Monmouth, when we're an hour and a half away, or 3 hours away from up here, 4 hours away, we need to coordinate better. We try to sit as secretaries once or twice a year and go through things. It's difficult because everyone has their circuit, and they've got to provide opportunities for their horsemen in that circuit. And I think, as a group, we're trying to get to a point where, look, can we create big days of racing once a month in locations, different racetracks, and then can we agree that if that's your big day at Monmouth, none of us will interfere with it. And if that's our big day in New York, nobody's going to interfere with it. And that's where we need to get to. It's not always the easiest thing in the world, but like, for instance, this year, we moved the Man of War at Belmont to earlier in the meet to get off of the United Nations, which was on TV, and Monmouth puts a lot of money towards that. And we said, well, look, we can run May 11th. That will help us feed the Manhattan on Belmont Day, and then they can go from the Manhattan to the United Nations. So I think what you do is you look at schedules and you try to just, if we do it one race at a time, we'll get there. It just takes time. And I would imagine as the fall crop decreases and purse money becomes more precious, you'll start to look closer and say, gee, there's a race in New York or there's a race at Monmouth that day. Maybe I really don't need that race. Maybe it's better to let my horsemen go there or their horsemen come to New York, and you get some cooperation that way. So this has been an ongoing thing in the industry. You won't solve it overnight, but most of us know each other, and we do meet. In fact, we're trying to meet in December and just sort of go through things and say, hey, how can we work better to use our money to where we're both not running 5 and 6 horse fields.
Well, Martin Panza, a pleasure to have you join us this morning and touch on the basic premise of your tenure so far here, and it's been so well received and just seems to be, hitting all the right notes and continued success, and we appreciate it.
No, thank you. My pleasure.
And just before we let you go, how you like your first Saratoga meet?
This place is pretty cool. I mean, I go home at night and I'm already thinking about what we can change for next year, and there's so much potential here. I think we've really just scratched the surface, and I think whether it's Whitney Day or Travers Day next year, we're going to do something really special, and I want to see how this Breed Day does the day after the Travers, and it's a really powerful place, and the 2 turf courses, and just the fact, like yesterday we had 40,000 people here. That is really neat. I mean, people like coming here, they like racing. You go into town at night and they're so into it. So, we need to build off of this, and we can do some special things here the next couple of years.
We'll see about opening a Randy's Donuts, so that you could feel like you're back in the wood.
I missed that place. I got a special picture of Randy's Donuts, and the space shuttle is now sitting in Los Angeles Museum. They had to bring it up Manchester Boulevard, and I've got this picture of the donut with the space shuttle right behind it. I got that framed at home. I think it's the greatest thing.
Well, he's made New York his home now, Martin Panza, and the progress that's being made on the racing product, a lot of focus and paying off. We're going to take a break. Second half of the show, we're going to see Scott Hazelton in a little bit. Before that, though, BC Racing Guy on Twitter, Jim Gluckson, joins us next on Loose on the Lead. Stay with us.
I'm Brian Nadeau of HorsePlayerNow.com. Did you know that each Monday during the Saratoga Racing Meet, all Capital Bets account holders can earn an additional 1% in their player rewards program when wagering on Saratoga races? For more information, log on to CapitalOTB.com.
The Capital OTB Handicapping Challenge Series is back. That's right. The 2014 Capital OTB Handicapping Challenge Series is back, and it's your chance to win thousands in cash and prizes, and a seat at the 2015 Handicapping Championship in Las Vegas. This month's contest is the Labor Day Workout on September 6th. So sign up today, online at CapitalOTB.com, or stop in at the Clubhouse Racebook.
Fascinated by the world of horse racing? Interested in honing your handicapping skills? Class is in session. Night school, Monday nights. Easy to access online. It's free, interactive, and informative for the casual and serious race fan. Horse Player Now Buzz. Live horses to watch emailed to you daily. Our eyes, your prize. Night School in the Buzz. Visit horseplayernow.com for details.
I didn't want to get just any degree after high school.
Horse racing has always been my passion.
I was already a lawyer.
When I was young, my dad took me to the races. The sound of the crowd. I still remember.
I'm 40, and I don't want to stay in a career I don't love.
I want to follow my passion.
Follow your passion at the University of Arizona Racetrack Industry Program.
Missed one of our TV shows? No worries. Now you can catch all your favorite programs online. Simply log on to CapitalOTB.com and click on the YouTube link at the bottom of the homepage. And look for our new podcast coming soon. CapitalOTB.com. Log on today.
We're back on Loose on the Lead on this Sunday morning, a busy Sunday morning, and we got to move fast because Jim Gluckson stayed in town just because we asked him to join us on Loose on the Lead. Breeders' Cups, Jimmy Gluckson.
Steve, Seth, thanks for having me. Little breaking news this morning. Kingman has won the Prix Jacques Lemarrois and is qualified for the Breeders' Cup Mile, and automatic winning you're in for him.
Have they indicated?
They've not said anything as of
because
yet.
that would be a big get.
Yeah, it would be huge. It would be absolutely huge. But
and they were a little dubious about the ground, about the way the going was. They were a little edgy.
They did go, and it's tremendous. It's the 4th Group 1 in a row. It's a tremendous season. It's a great year for John Gosden.
Yes.
Tremendous season. So it's very encouraging, and I'll see what happens. Our series has had a tremendous year. We have 71 races this year. for the Winning Your Ins in many different countries. We increased the number of 3 more countries in South America this year to races in Peru and in Brazil and in Chile. So it's been very very impressive. And we have Bala Bali, unfortunately, who may not make the race, who came in, won the Gran Premio in Brazil and came over to the United States and in Dick Mandela's barn. So I would say that would be part of the case.
Jimmy, you bring up an interesting question too, because when you talk about the Winning You're In and some of the travel monies and some of the support, this was a innovation and a new area for Breeders' Cup Limited. How old? 2 years now? 3 years?
With Winning Your Ins?
And the travel bonus.
The travel bonus. Well, the travel bonus began 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
But for last year, for everyone though, all horses traveling from outside California will have their travel stipend of $10,000 and paid for, and $40,000 for overseas.
Hang on.
Do you have a lavalier issue?
Jim's lost his microphone, so let's fish that out.
He's sitting on it. There we go.
There we go.
There it is.
We hook it on here?
Put it on the shirt. Right there.
All right. How's that?
Perfect.
Not
Sorry,
so
folks.
bad.
All right.
Not so bad. Jim Glucks is joining us. Jim, how you been?
Do we miss all that? Did all that go away?
Last week, Steve's given phone directions on the air. It's
live television
live
from
TV.
the All right. What I'm leading to is, have you seen an increase over the last couple of years, commensurate in terms of foal nominations and the stallion nominations and those kinds of things?
Seen it in stallions for Europe, and we're still trying to get it for overseas in Asia as well. But I think there is more interest, especially coming in South America, when Kaleidoscopio came over and ran in the marathon and won that race. So I'd say that is there, but it's still going to take a little bit more time.
Let's talk about sites, because there was big news this year where you added Keeneland and Del Mar to the mix. I think, boy, the folks out at Del Mar are really excited.
Very excited.
They're already planning for the second.
Well,
so you came in, you had to be thrilled with the reception you got out there.
I would say with Keeneland and Del Mar as new sites for the 3 years. This is the first time we announced 3 sites in a row since the middle 90s. This was done. There was a concentrated effort to figure out what the direction would be. Many people talked about a permanent site, another kind of rotation, or something more of a compromise. As the California's proved to be the most popular place, but not for every year. So we're going to be at Keeneland next year. Very excited. In Keeneland, there was a tremendous amount of attention for it, as you can imagine. Sort of like coming home. The horses that are born and bred and foaled are going to be racing at a Breeders' Cup in Keeneland, right near the Breeders' Cup headquarters. So very exciting there.
Got to stop for a second on Keeneland, Jimmy, because there's certainly been questions raised and criticism, and what has been the formal response, as it were, to concerns that this is going to be, because of the physical limitations of Keeneland, a bit of a, I don't want to call it the elite and VIP Breeders' Cup, but the reality is seating's going to be tight and admission's going to be tight. How are you dealing with that critique?
It's a very fair question. There'll be a limited number of seating. There's a limited number of grandstand reserved as well, as far as general admission getting into the racetrack. It'll be a festival-style event. There will be people who will not have a view of the racetrack, that they'll be in other locations up on the hill at Keeneland, enjoy themselves. That is somewhat similar to here in the backyard situation. There just will be people that will not have that. Yes, there'll be a number of individuals and patrons attending, because you have to have an arrangement where the lines are not voluminous and people can go to concession stands, and the parking has to be of a sense that everybody's going to have a great day. So there'll be a cap put on the number of individuals attending, but I think this has all been worked out in advance, and it'll be a terrific day. And not as many people as at previous Breeders' Cups, but as we go from track to track over the years, there are certain strengths and certain attributes that some tracks have over the others.
And that's interesting, the festival on the hill type of thing. I hadn't thought about that, but it is kind of analogous to the backyard, because there are people in the backyard who never see a horse at Saratoga and have a great time.
Exactly, and I think we'll let everybody know that out front. And I think that's the important thing, is to be up front and say this is the experience.
No, fair enough. And of course, if we're worrying about concerns, and obviously it's well down the road, but you know, the immediate alarmist reaction to the turf situation at Del Mar, and of course, 3 years hence, there'll be the growth, and you know, Tom Proctor, I think, set everybody straight about how a turf course matures. So those concerns people can allay.
Very valid, and it'll take a little time, and I think they're obviously working diligently to improve the situation.
Let me ask you, it seems like Breeders' Cup over the past few years has kind of appreciated moving into prime time on the Fridays and Saturdays. With the move over to Keeneland, portable lights, is that a possibility?
No, that will not. Okay. There will not be lights. We're very pleased this year to go for a third year in a row in prime time with the Breeders' Cup Classic on NBC. Breeders' Cup and NBC expanded their relationship this year. I must mention, speaking of Breeders' Cup Challenge, for 11 programs for the Breeders' Cup Challenge Series, Winning You're In, including next week's Travers, and the Woodward will also be televised here later at the end of the meet. It's a terrific series of 18 Breeders' Cup Challenge races. I would also like to mention that the Jockey Club also has put together a series of their Jockey Club on Fox series of racing, of which today's Sword Dancer will be a part of it. So there's more than 20 races on the air this year. I think that's a very important increase that we had not seen as shortly as 2 years ago. So, you know, working together, the organizations have put together a very nice schedule for outside of the normal realm. Obviously, the excellent job that TVG and HRTV do. This is expanding it to other sports networks.
That aspect has been really a success that the Jockey Club specifically, when the McKinsey study came out and the whole concept of added exposure, and for people who say that, oh, we have all these organizations, we have all these things that happen in racing and nothing ever comes out of it. Well, one specific success that is absolutely tangible is this burgeoning broadcast schedule between Fox and NBC, and it seems like the networks, in fact, especially with Fox establishing Fox Sports 1, NBC Sports Network, all of these additional areas of opportunity for programming, they're delighted to have racing because we fill up time. I mean, and it's a furtive subject for their networks.
It's no question. I think that is a tremendous amount of a gain and a tremendous amount of interest for ourselves, for the Breeders' Cup Challenge, especially earlier in the year, to put horses into the Breeders' Cup and have that put on people's minds, especially outside of racing and into the sports consciousness. I think that's really what we're trying to achieve here at the same time. And these shows have been terrific in doing that and identifying it and trying to expand the base.
And Jim, on that topic too, because if we fold in initiatives like America's Best Racing, you know, there's this obvious two-track approach. I mean, you're focused specifically on the racing on the ovals. I mean, that's your focus. But there's plenty of people working outside that. If I think about some of the things Peter Rotundo Jr. does, and what ABR is trying to do, which is to tie in to the social consciousness, as you say. So it's trying to do two things: draw new people in and keep those that are already loyal and you know, focused horse players and fans, keep them happy with the action, and let's get some new people in at the same time.
I think that there is interest and for all types of people who want to come to the races. I think Martin, your previous guest, to discuss, he's a big event guy. We were the original big event guys when it came to this, and you draw people from all walks of life, and as you mentioned, Peter, our Vice President of Media Entertainment, has done an extraordinary job in branching out and bringing more individuals into it, especially our ambassadors or celebrities who get involved in it and support the game. And I think that the whole experience of the 2 days of racing at the Breeders' Cup and great days like here at Saratoga, I think would make it special for people to get introduced to the game, and little by little to become players.
Well, is there any truth to the rumor that Peter Rotundo Jr. actually is a Kardashian? Because it just feels like...
I think there's more news on that to be told.
I couldn't resist.
Because
he's as much of a media that he's made himself into a star himself.
And he's very hardworking. He's nonstop promoting the game, promoting the Breeders' Cup. Is tremendous. The fedora lives, and he's tremendous.
How'd you like the Esquire series, horse players?
That brought a terrific. Thank you for mentioning us. That was a great series. the series showed horse players a different side of the game, not all necessarily the glamour, but showed how tough it is. It showed the winning and a lot of the losing. And I think it was what I think is great about it too, is it showed players who didn't win and the frustration that you don't win most of the time. And it's rather that's really the understatement of the century. I'm just saying, but that's what that show brought forth. Speaking of horse players, I did also want to mention we have a tremendous event again this year at Santa Anita, the Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge.
Huge.
Which is the largest live money event in racing, a $10,000 buy-in at Santa Anita. It's been so popular now, we've expanded to 2 satellite locations this year.
It's a big story.
Keeneland, at Keeneland, and at long shots at Aqueduct. Right. They will be the 2 new satellite positions.
So people are playing there on
That's
the same
correct.
day.
Yes, absolutely.
It's
absolutely.
huge for those that can't make it out to Santa Anita.
Exactly.
This was a big story. I had I've got Fornatel every week on radio talking about the contest scene, and the BCBC went from 0 to 60 in 2 seconds. It became the targeted. I mean, the NHC is going to be the NHC,
right?
But because of the live bankroll aspect, the BCBC became a sensation, and then the 2 crazy back-to-back finishes, the 2
down to
years
the wire.
in a row were crazy. So, and I think horse players fed into that too.
Absolutely. I think that this is obviously we've talked about this. The last 5 to 7 years, the explosion in the tournaments in general in the sport has been terrific, and we want to keep pace. And I think the expansion will get a lot of other tracks' attention for this. So it's been outstanding work by Tim Schramm and Ken Kirkner at the Breeders' Cup in putting this together.
Huge hit, the BCBC, and there's still plenty of opportunity to qualify. And when you qualify for BCBC, you get that bankroll, the $10,000, which is outlandish. The winning player here, and the pot is going to grow substantially. I mean, you don't even have a ceiling yet as to know how big the purse may end up.
That's true. I'm going to go over 400, 500,000. We'll see. And you'll see what it has as we move on.
You can follow Jim on Twitter, BC Racing Guy. And Jim also, and I'm going to bring this up, Jimmy, because every week he puts out the Countdown to the Breeders' Cup newsletter. If you want to be on top of everything that has gone on the previous weeks and leading up, the schedule, what the races are this week, this is a resource that the media gets for the most part.
That's correct.
But is available on the website to the public.
We send it to our database as well of fans that
Terrific.
encourage. Thank you.
Keep
That's a great plug. Thank you.
How many hours does it take you to put this together weekly?
Well, I have a great man named Brian Nato who puts it together with us. So I'm just going to give a plug for Brian. But we get this together over the weekend as races come in, and it's dense and detailed, but it keeps you updated as to what's going on.
As does Jim Gluckson on everything Breeders' Cup. And when we come back, we'll turn our attention to yesterday's racing here at Saratoga, the Alabama, the Lake Placid, today the Sword Dancer and the Aladar, and much, much more. We thank Jim Gluckson. Scott Hazelton, is here? Yep. All right, somebody should have told me. Scott Hazelton's going to join us to talk about those things next. Back after this, from the backstretch at Saratoga, loose on the lead.
It's more than just a sports bar. It's Stadium Cafe. Located at 389 Broadway in Saratoga, it's the place to be for great times and great food. Their menu features everything from gourmet entrees to your favorite wraps and sandwiches. Or maybe you just want to grab a beer and catch the game. So what can be better than that? How about 2 Stadium Cafes? There's also the Westside Stadium, right up the road at 112 Congress Street. Same great menu, same great service. Whether you're hanging at the bar or just relaxing outside on their spacious covered patio, you'll always leave knowing you'll be back again.
We love, above all, the staff. We love Dave Harmon, and the food is fantastic.
Not 1, but 2. 112 Congress Street, 389 Broadway. Guaranteed to be a home run.
Stately Victor, final furlong of the Toyota Bluegrass, runs right by Patio Prado. Alan Garcia and Stately Victor, a 40-1 upset.
Dinah Zappa holding on. Dinah Zappa wins.
Horse of the Year, Go Sapper. Sire of 9 new stakes horses and 5 new stakes winners, including Grade 1 winner Stately Victor in 2010, standing at Adena Springs.
We're back on Loose on the Lead after our last break, and we're going to run to the top of the hour, and we're going to be joined by Scott Hazelton. We are joined by Scott Hazelton of HRTV. Good morning. Welcome.
Good to be here, Steve and Seth.
Happy to be on board. When'd you get in town?
Got here last, Tuesday.
And for the remainder of the meet?
I'm here for the, going to see this thing through. See how, I'm here to the bitter end.
They shipped Kate and Bradar back to the Midwest, and they bring in Scott Hazelton. And Scott, before we talk about the racing and you back at Saratoga for this nice 3-week stretch, we got to congratulate you on the birth of
baby number 2.
Baby 2.
Yeah, Emma, little Emma. It's been an eventful couple of months back there in Southern California. Not only had a baby, but 6 days after that, bought a new house. So life's been crazy, to say the least.
Frankly, for those that were wondering, the reason California Chrome did not win the Triple Crown was because Scott could not come to Belmont.
Yeah.
And there was no way a Triple Crown was going to happen without you in attendance.
That's what Steve Nagler told me. So
Nagler
had some foresight as far as that's concerned. But
it was having the baby. The baby was due that week.
Baby came the day before the Belmont, and I actually watched the Belmont Stakes laying in a hospital bed, hospital cot next to my wife, who's in the bed with my newborn daughter and year-and-a-half-old daughter. Hanging out. It was great. It was a great Belmont Stakes. I would have rather been there than anywhere else in the world.
And of course, as I'm always compelled to mention, there is an ongoing battle for cutest child of racing personalities between Christine Blacker and Sean Clancy's baby and the Hazelton children. It's an epic battle.
It's something that's probably going to go for a long time too, because I've yet to even see Clancy's kid. I've never even seen a picture. I've seen Margot.
I think they rent it
a million times. They rent the kid. Yeah. I hope he hears that. I hope
you'll get back to him.
Yeah, I hope so.
Before we move on, though, give a little plug to the sibling.
To Addison?
Yeah, we only heard Emma.
Oh, yeah, no, Addison. I mean, Addison's
He named the baby after the street Wrigley Field is on.
That's what everybody thinks, because I'm a White Sox fan, but it's got nothing to do with that. But it was kind of...
It's a good thing it wasn't a boy. Name him Comiskey.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I have no insight on the boy name. My wife's taking care of that. But we just came across the name online, and we came up with Addison, and I think that's how Emma came up as well, so... They're coming out here on Tuesday. They're flying out Tuesday. They're going to be here for a week.
Nice.
So
very nice.
They're getting a chance to see Saratoga and have some fun over in Congress Park and swim in the pool and come to the races. So.
Outstanding. Well, let's go to the races because the action yesterday, Alabama, the first big Saturday for you in attendance, and here we are, 1.25 miles. Oh, we're going to get to watch the whole thing. And in fact, if anybody's got a sundial. You can go ahead and engage your sundial here for the 2-minute and 5-second sparkling running time. But hey, it only matters when you're in jail.
I guess so. I mean, what was the buyer, like an 82?
82 buyer for this.
Historically low is what I read
it's very close,
on Twitter.
Yeah.
And, Sai, she sets this slow pace. She ends up finishing dead last by about 10 lengths, too, in the end, which was incredibly disappointing given how slow they ended up going. But, I mean... Stop Charging Maria, she just tracked on the outside, and it was a pretty straightforward race in the end. There's not a lot to it.
I took a shot with size, and when that 1:15 came up, I thought, hey, this is pretty good.
Sure.
And then you had to finish last off of those fractions. I think it says a lot about the entire field, but then you define things when you look at that 2:05 and change. It certainly, nobody wanted to go the distance, it seemed like, but, credit to Stop Charging Maria for getting the win in the stretch.
Well, and this race actually may be the best example of why people are eager for exchange wagering in this country, because in in-running exchange wagering on this would have been fun. And Seth, you bring up the great point. You see 49-4, and you think, ooh, look at this. Size is going along easily. Junior Alvarado is outstanding on route race rides. And, you know, at this point, you're thinking, what's going to stop her from here? And an anchor, I think, is the answer to that.
Invisible anchor.
I mean, there's not much to the race, like I said before, and you see, it looks like right here that Johnny's going to start asking to stop charging. It's so hard to watch these races too when they're running on the main track with the way the turf course is so elevated here at Saratoga. But nonetheless, he's asking her, and she puts away size. Size backs up quickly, and that's it. And until joint return starts to kick it in.
Well, and Miss Bessie Lou, you got to give tremendous credit.
Well.
It was a great day for Ben Leone and Bessie Lou's stables, because here the $2.6 million Missy is going to get herself some Grade 1 black type. Chris Baker, who handles the management of Bessie Lou for Ben Leone, they were delighted with this performance. Here comes Service with joint return, who ran nicely and was one of the few to close.
Yeah, she was about the only one that did close or do much past the early parts of that race. So, I mean, how far does Untappable win that race by? Does she lap the field, maybe?
Well, that's a great question, and you would have to think that Ron Winchell and Fisk and that company and that team maybe regret the Haskell try.
Yeah.
I mean, it certainly was game to bring the filly there to Monmouth. But now, as Seth said at the top of the show, things set up for a cotillion for the ages.
Yeah, that's going to be a great running, as long as she comes out of that race okay yesterday, stop charging Maria. So it'll be a lot of fun. But I still think that Untappable is a long way in front of this filly that won yesterday, even though she's won these latest two Grade 1 races at Saratoga.
Well, in addition, we mentioned what a good day it was for Bessie Lou's stables. Crown Queen, who had that super impressive performance earlier in the meet. I don't know if we've got Lake Placid video. Do we, Seth?
No.
No Lake Placid? Well, Crown Queen, and this was a very funny set of performances, because Duff won for Lipa Coy. Looked like a winner at one point in deep stretch, just kept going, and an enormous performance from Duff 1 in here to be second. Excellence kind of was slow under Joe Bravo to make the hole that she had down inside. She did get her nose in front, but that ends up third when they hit the wire.
Yeah, it was a great race. I mean, like I said to Richie on HRTV yesterday, you can't ask for more out of 4 horses in a race. I mean, a 4-horse field, because of all the tactics that went on. Nobody really wanted the lead. Duff 1 gets the lead. The longest shot in the race ends up running a great race. And Crown Queen looked like she was beat once the filly got through on the inside. Looked like they'd opened up enough on her late enough in stretch. And then she just kept on coming. I mean, she just kept on trying. I think that was a breakout performance for Crown Queen, and a filly that should build off of that and should learn a lot from it.
I agree.
Why don't we take a look and get some opinions on today's feature race, the Sword Dancer Grade 1 event, 1.5 miles. I was on the handicapping show earlier. I kind of went master of the obvious with Main Sequence on top, the 2 coming out of the UN. I think have a little bit of an edge on this field. I think Imagining and Amira's Prince could be a little bit interesting. But as I say, I put Main Sequence on top, but really tepidly, because I think Twilight Eclipse, there's a little bit of a weight shift, and I think off of the good run in the UN, and the really nice run in this race last year, which was similar to the UN, where Twilight Eclipse had the lead late and looked pretty good and then got run down. I think Twilight Eclipse is going to be interesting, and I may regret having that one underneath.
And he likes the 1.5 miles. I mean, he's run such fast times. I know he ran a massive time at Gulfstream Park on a really fast turf course, but I think it's very, very straightforward. Main Sequence definitely deserves to be the favorite off of the United Nations win. I had a crazy idea looking at the form this morning with Prado Olay, based on his second to the Pizza Man, and what we saw the Pizza Man do yesterday in the St. Ledger at Arlington Park. So, they may have just figured this horse out, that he wants to go this far, and maybe that can be the turning point for Romans and Donegal with Johnny Velasquez. I mean, it's a crazy long shot. He's going to be 15-1. He might be higher, but keying off of the Pizza Man and what he did yesterday at Arlington and the St. Ledger, I might give him a look at a price.
Yeah, that's interesting. All right, we're being told we have to wrap here, so we will wrap.
We're staying.
We appreciate Scott Hazelton.
More.
We appreciate Scott Hazelton.
You'll be on the radio soon, won't you? There's more
you got
later.
plenty. You fire up the
never
radio
stop talking.
15 hours of me.
on Monday. All right, we're going to wrap things up for Loose on the Lead for this Sunday morning. We're live from the Saratoga backstretch every Sunday at 10 a.m. Don't forget, questions, comments, suggestions, looseonthelead@yahoo.com. We would love to hear from you. That's going to wrap things up. Enjoy the races this afternoon. We'll see you again next week.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.